Welcome back to the Big Rant Show, the real home of progressives. Now, yesterday was Election Day in America. A lot of good things happened, as I see it anyway. So let's get to talking about some of what took place. I was a little disappointed in what happened down in Mississippi. I was hoping the Democrat would have a better showing in the governor's race. Of course, it's Mississippi. I didn't expect him to win. I just hoped he would have been a little closer. But some good things happened. For example, Democrats won the mayorships of, I believe it was Philadelphia and Houston last night, among some other cities across the country. Um, Virginia, which is very interesting because Governor Youngkin, a Republican, had been pushing his thought that his party, the Republicans, were going to take over both chambers of the House and give him an unfettered control of the state. He made claims that Democrats were just too liberal with their views on abortion. And so they were just too radical. Abortion rights, pushed by Democrats, were just too radical for your everyday Virginia. Well, here's the deal. He pushed and pushed and pushed, saying that he wanted to curtail abortion rights in the state, and people showed up in groves to vote for Democrats, giving Democrats control of both chambers of the Virginia legislature. I think it's kind of like almost a watershed moment kind of like thing, I think, because going forward, into 2024, this looks pretty good. A lot of people thought because of stuff going on, the stuff that's been going on in Israel, things like that, and Biden supporting, that people wouldn't show up for the Democrats. But they did. And good for them. Because now the governor's going to, in Virginia's going to have a harder time passing terrible legislation that curtails the rights of women, the rights of trans people, especially trans youth. And he really thought that he was on the right track, that people fully supported his idea of basically making abortion impossible in the state of Virginia. The voters said no. Exit polling even showed that they did not support his idea that Democrats were too radical on abortion rights. The American voter understands. The American voter gets it in most cases when it comes to abortion rights. They understand that it means doctors will up and move out of their states. They understand that it means rural medical facilities for birthing will close down. Because it's not because the funds won't be there, but doctors don't want to work in an environment where they can't do their job. Another big moment happened in Ohio. Two things happened in Ohio. Ohio had two ballot measures that were put to the public. One for recreational marijuana use, and two, to enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution. How do you think those did? Once again, abortion rights being voted on by the people overwhelmingly wins the day. So in Ohio, the right to have an abortion will be enshrined in the state constitution. These are two situations where I think something good really happened here. Not only did these two states, tell the conservatives that they don't believe in their far right radical version of abortion law, but it shows you that when given the vote to the people, Abortion rights will always stand in this country. I guarantee you, if there was a national referendum on abortion rights, it would win the day. Much to the chagrin of people like Rick Santorum, who was lamenting yesterday the fact that they put two things on the ballot at one time, and talking about how direct democracy is going to be the failure of this country. So you getting to decide what happens as opposed to some corporate interest somewhere or somebody that's been paid off by some interest group is less important? No. As it is, your vote should matter more than any corporate interest out there, any interest group. They have their say. They can have their say. Their free speech. You're allowed to say what you want to do, what you want to say, and you can vent what have. You can say what you have to say. But at the end of the day, their vote shouldn't be more important than yours. People like Rick Santorum and other Republicans would tell you opposite. Rick Santorum, whose wife is only here today because she had an abortion. The other ballot measure there, as I mentioned, was recreational marijuana, and that passed overwhelmingly as well. We had that same vote in Oklahoma earlier this year because they refused to let it be on the main ballot, and so they had a special election and hid it to where people wouldn't show up. So that one lost. Now, it's not something for me. It's not something I care about doing. That's not my cup of tea. But I think adults should have the right to use it if they see fit. Unfortunately, the right plays this political game of where they act like they're moral people because they don't support the legalization of pot. But really, are you really being moral? Telling other people how they can live? The answer is no. There are a lot of studies that have come out. There's some studies that have come out about cannabis as of late. And I want to be very clear about what some of them say. Some of them say that there are higher risks of like heart attack, stroke, and other, heart-related issues. Now, I don't know who did these studies. I don't know who paid for them. But I do know that they showed that there was some in people over 65 that there was a number of heart-related issues related to daily use of marijuana. But then again, if you were to take those same people, the same number, the same age group, 65 and over, and look at the same data as cigarette smokers, you're going to find the same number of problems, heart-related, other cardiovascular events that are going to happen. I believe it's up for an adult to make that decision. And I'd say with alcohol, I don't believe in prohibition. I don't believe we should be giving kids marijuana, alcohol, cigarettes, or anything like that. Now, are you going to stop it from happening? No. People are like, oh, to make kids more likely to smoke pot. No, it won't. The people that are going to smoke pot are already smoking pot. There's nothing you're going to do to change the fact that kids sometimes will venture into that world. All you can do is teach them that they shouldn't, or what to do when faced with pressures to do so. But I believe as an adult, you should be able to make any decision you want to make, as long as you're not hurting somebody else. Another bit of good news that happened yesterday. Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, a Democrat, won re-election against a candidate who was being pushed by Trump, McConnell, and all sorts of other groups of, big high profile people. And Bashir won. And so the state of Kentucky kept their governor, their Democratic governor, and he's still going to have a fight. He's still going to have to fight. But clearly the people in Kentucky like this guy. Clearly the people in Kentucky don't make a lot of sense to me. Right? Kentucky has they insist on having Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul as their senators. Two terribly right-wing Republicans. They insist on voting for Republicans for their legislatures. But they keep picking a Democratic governor. So statewide, they elect Democrats. So it makes me think that maybe there's some gerrymandering going on in some of the districts in Kentucky that have led them to being able to have a strangle grip like they've done in Texas and throughout the South. But to all the Democrats that won yesterday, congratulations. Now, with all the political stuff out of the way, when it comes to yesterday's election, we're talking about something a little harder here. And I hope I don't step on any toes. And I hope I don't anger anybody. Because that's not my goal here at the Big Rant Show. Over the weekend, the war in Gaza made a grisly toll of over 10,000 dead Palestinians. 4,000 of those are children. Now, I understand back on October 7th, Hamas did some terrible stuff. Killed 1,400 people. Men, women, children. They did horrific things to those children and to those people. They took over 200 hostages. Who are now probably buried in the tunnels. They're sitting in the tunnels where Hamas has kept them. And so I think we can all agree that Hamas is evil. They did evil things. No matter how just anyone may believe their cause is. Killing children is never okay. Ever. Yet, Israel has killed 4,000 of them. The other day, Israel bombed an ambulance convoy headed for Egypt, claiming it was filled with Hamas leaders and warriors. Question: why were they going out of the country if they were Hamas? They wouldn't have been. At least not to Egypt. If they were going out of country, wouldn't you think they were trying to get into Israel? Why would they be in an ambulance? And the video footage I've seen is horrific of that attack. A man holding up his child who has just literally been burned to death. They bombed a hospital. Israel bombed a refugee camp twice, all claiming to be going after Hamas. This is not a war. This is ethnic cleansing. This is genocide. And it's not just going on in Gaza. They're using Gaza as a way to hide from you what's actually happening in the West Bank, where attacks on Palestinian people have just multiplied, and how they've ramped up the evictions of Palestinians out of land that Israel has decided is theirs. But what's going on in Gaza is nothing short of a genocidal war against the Palestinian people. Yes, Israel has the right to defend itself. Yes, Israel has the right to exist. But they do not have the right to commit genocide. They killed scores of people in those bombing attacks on a refugee camp, claiming they killed a Hamas leader. But they don't even know if they killed him. Why'd they go back a second time if they really had killed them the first time? In the first one, they killed 89 people in that bombing. People are being blown to bits. Now, here's what I believe. I believe that innocent children should not be killed. I believe that innocent civilians, period, should not be killed. I don't care if they're Palestinian. I don't care if they're Israeli. I don't care if they're American, British, Saudi Arabian. I don't care if they're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu. I don't care. But the murder of innocent civilians is wrong. Israel is being just as evil as Hamas was on October 7th, but worse. I understand that Israel feels, that they were attacked and that they have a right to defend themselves, but they're no longer defending themselves. They keep saying that they will stop the bombing if they let out all the prisoners they took. Now we all know that Israel will not stop their attacks on Gaza, even if they were to release, even if Hamas was to release every single person that they kidnapped, Israel would still keep bombing. We know this. Because if the Israeli government actually cared about the people that have been taken by Hamas, they would have already found a way to get to them. But they're just bombing the upper, the streets. They have a group of forces there in Israel whose main goal is fighting in those tunnels. They're not being used. It shows you that Israel does not care who they're killing. They just want to wipe out the Palestinian people. Now, as I have said, I believe in a two-state solution. But you can't have a two-state solution when one state is constantly killing and murdering the other people and trying to remove them from the face of the earth. Now, let's talk about what got there to be in Israel in the first place. The Holocaust. 6 million Jews killed by one madman who tattooed numbers on them and made them wear the Star of David so you'd know exactly who they are. Over the weekend, it came to light that Israel has been abusing Palestinian prisoners. One group of them was made to wear numbered tags. Sound familiar? And they were being beaten, and some of them killed. Sounds like the Gestapo to me. To be clear, I fully support the Jewish people. I support the notion that they have a homeland. But I do not support the notion of them stealing land, them blaming the people that they stole the land from for stealing their land, or, because they stole the land, and then blaming them that they stole it. Huh? Doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. I saw a video the other day, and it kind of hurt to see, as a disabled person that I am. And I'll tell you exactly what I saw. A girl, looked like maybe teenager age, shot laying on the ground by the IDF, who just left her there to die. A man in a wheelchair tries to roll over to her to help, provide aid to her. And the Israeli Defense Forces rip him out of his wheelchair, throw him to the ground to ensure that he cannot help this girl. Meanwhile, the family screams from across the street. And when they all try to help, they point their guns at them. While the IDF just lets this girl bleed out in the middle of the street. So, what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now is not right. Over the years, I have been a staunch supporter of the rights of Israelis. And I don't believe I don't think I've done it right. I believe I've been wrong in some estimations of what was going on. No longer am I feeling that way. I don't support Israel's right to bully their neighbors, to commit genocide, and to steal land from the people of Palestine. I call on everybody who is good in this world to stand with the Palestinian people, but to at the same time stand against Hamas and against the apartheid regime in Israel. This has been the Big Ranch Show. I'll see you down the road.